All right, welcome to the first video in a series of videos that I am going to be making about some of my race prep, my engine prep, cylinder prep, crankshaft rebuilding, you name it. Primarily going to be focused on the 1997 Honda RS125. There'll probably be some other day-to-day stuff in here as I go along on my day-to-day, but this is just to sort of educate people on a lot of processes, especially when it comes to cylinders, crankshafts, plating, porting, head, squish, head development, that kind of thing. I'm Gary. I own a company called Retrodyne. I manage the R&D department at Millennium Technologies up here in Plymouth, Wisconsin. Recently, as of this summer, I picked up this 1997 Honda RS125 NX4, primarily for my apprentice Keegan to race. I'm sure I will have a picture of Keegan probably hanging from a rope posted here. It is probably the best motorcycle I can think of to learn to road race. Everybody who races one uses almost exactly the same jet, almost the same tuning. You hop on it, you ride it, you learn to road race, life is good. I bought this from Stuart at Rising Sun Cycles. Shout out to Stuart and Rising Sun Cycles. Probably the best place to buy real, serious GP equipment, GP bike parts. HRC, if you're listening, make him an HRC dealer so we can get better and cooler stuff and import it into the US. As I go on, I will probably mention the companies that sponsor us and Millennium and who we work with, as well as the products who make really, really nice parts for RS125s. The start of this video is just going to be getting the engine out of this. Much to my surprise, and I don't want to say disappointment. Disappointment's not the right word. This is not a stock engine. When I contacted Stuart earlier this year, I said, I want a 125 GP bike. I want it broken, busted, it doesn't matter. My apprentice and I can rebuild anything here at Millennium. We fix cylinders that have been shot with shotguns, basically. And he imported this with some other bikes, said, hey, it's on a boat on its way over here. When it shows up, it's yours. It shows up, and he sends me a picture going, oh man, this is not the RS125 that he thought it was. It has an Olin shock. It's got a Jolly Moto pipe with their carbon fiber silencer on it. It has a carbon fiber Ram Airbox, which for better or for worse, makes you more power, top end, if you've got a really long road race track like Road America or Daytona or something like that. However, it greatly increases the complexity of the mounting of the fairing. Stock RS125s have an aluminum spar, which the front of the fairing mounts to. Obviously, that is no longer here. They have completely cut the headstock all the way off. It is gone. And the fairing actually mounts to the carbon fiber scoop. So I purchased a 2001 HRC 125A kit fairing set, which I'm going to have to modify the fairing to mount to that. The main difference in this engine versus a standard stock HRC kit, or even the stock RS125, is the cylinder and the electronics. So standard RS125 engines are non-power valve. They've just got a great big huge exhaust port. The Hija cylinder kit comes with a power valve. I don't know if this will pick this up, but it has just massive exhaust ports. It's fully from one end of the board to the other, and a nice servo-controlled power valve. The servo is off of like a 2007 CR250. The kit cylinder is its own cast thing. I believe the power valve parts come from the Aprilia RS125 or RS250. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it makes it a totally different animal. The previous owner of this motorcycle told me that this won either the 2005 and 6 or 2006 and 7 Australian 125 GP National Championships. And the last time that they had this on the dyno, it made 53 horsepower. And as exciting as that is for my apprentice who has only road raced a KTM 105, it would probably be a recipe for him either blowing up my motorcycle or crashing and launching himself into space. So I have been fortunate enough to do some wheeling and dealing with Steve Massey for a stock RS125 engine. So the name of the game right now is to get this engine out, get that engine in, and get it set up for normal standard RS125 operating procedures. The HEJA stuff, as exciting as it is probably just too much for us to work with right now, both on a tuning standpoint and a riding standpoint. And there's no sense in traveling all the way to a racetrack if you foul out plugs or burn down cylinders every time you get on it. So I will likely set that aside for a while till Keegan gets up to speed. For the seat, there is also, if I can get this off without embarrassing myself, probably not, yep, an HRC data collection box. I don't know if I have the software or the computing ability to access that right now. The bike came with a laptop from 1997 when the bike was new, and I have been unable to boot it up. And new laptops don't come with disk drives, nor can they run programs from 1997 without using a ROM. So I'm just sending everything to Jim and letting him figure it out. As we proceed with this, I'm going to preface this, and probably most of my other videos, by saying, if you have a totally different way of doing this, and you think I'm a moron for doing it the way that I am doing it, I think I'm a moron too. There's no need to comment about how you would do it differently. It's really unnecessary. My entire life, the comment section has been filled with people who don't actually do what I'm doing, putting in their 2 cents on how they would do it, meanwhile not actually doing it. I will also say that any of the tools, equipment, things that I use are just my personal preference. Everyone is a collection of their prejudices. You don't have to do it that way. It's just the way that I have found works best for my brain. And to add to that, sometimes I do things a way that are significantly harder than they need to be because it's the way that I'm most comfortable doing it. If there's some magic RS125 engine puller that exists and it's $83,000, that's great. I'm not buying that. It's always been the way, like with expansion chambers for me, I do it the hardest way possible. I know it would be easier to hire 12 high school students to come in and roll the cones and cut them out and weld them while I just stand back and, yep, you high schoolers that are highly skilled and talented metal workers, keep on working for 12 bucks an hour. That's not the way the real world works. So, yeah. Most of the tools I like to use are hand tools. You get a significantly better feel for what you are disassembling. You can tell if there is a nut on the backside of what you are doing, if something is spinning, if something is about to break. If you use impacts, chances are you are going to break something. If you get to the point that you have to use an impact because you don't have the strength to get it off, usually you should take a step back and go, why am I about to break this off? There's no rust anywhere on this bike. What am I doing wrong? That also being said, some of my favorite tools are T-handles, because you can do this with them when you're bored and thinking about stuff, and it is a significantly faster way of doing things other than a speed wrench. This is a speed wrench ratchet, which is one of my favorite tools of all time. It is totally and wholly unnecessary, but now we get to stare at my bald head and my ass for the next hour while I disassemble this. It is a nice tool to use. Two of my favorite methods of part and hardware storage and holding are these two things. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tray organizer from Snap-on. I believe these sell for $17. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tray holders from Harbor Freight. I believe this is $6. I am incredibly autistic, so I can look at a nut or bolt from long enough in the order of which I take them off, and I can determine where that is in its pile. If you don't have the kind of autism that I have, you can cut yourself a piece of paper and write exhaust hanger on it, and you should be able to remember where that nut or bolt came from. I'm probably going to kick that thing about 87 more times as I do this. A lot of people use vice grips or spring pullers. I am using a Knipex adjustable flat pliers, so I don't put a divot in my springs and bend them. This pipe is a little worse for wear, probably being somewhere near an ocean at some point. Let's see how... This is a Jolly Moto pipe. I believe that this is specifically made for the HEJA kit. It is massive. It is larger than any of the RS125 pipes I've made in the past. It's about the size of the 1998 A-kit TZ250 pipes that I made for Chris Spargo a number of years ago. I don't even think my calipers will fit over that. I'll measure it in another video. It is very dirty, and I want the radiator off. Anywhere that you can, I like to put the bolt back into place after I have removed it, because you will significantly reduce the amount of nuts and bolts that you have sitting around, and you will reduce the chances that you misplace one. So with chassis stuff, because I'm not going to do a ton of work to the chassis, I am going to put the nuts and bolts back where I took them off. This is a little sad, but this is probably not uncommon for GP bikes. At some point that got bashed in. I would like to replace this. I think it would be functional as is, but it's one of those things where I own a 1997 RS125. It probably shouldn't be really ghetto, so I'll see if I can get a new one of these. Beautiful, flawless gas tank, which I'm scared to death of dropping. There's a new one of those online for sale for an incredible amount of money that I want really bad, but probably should not buy because I don't need it. I will take a video for everybody who cares to see it while it's in place. See if I can watch the screen while I do it so it looks okay. That is a massive carburetor. It is just huge. There is the entrance to the pressurized airbox over there. I believe it's a 40 millimeter. We'll take a measurement of it when I get it off. and that is Phillips, which I left 500 miles away. Almost all screws on all motorcycles from Japan are Japanese industrial standard. Do yourself a humongous favor and look that up before you destroy your motorcycle. One of the other best things you can do for yourself when working on real fancy motorcycles, or anything in general, is get yourself a set of Stubby Allen sockets. If you've ever experienced trying to get a 3 or 4 or even 5 millimeter Allen screw out of something and you find yourself twisting and fighting with the bit itself, Snap-on sells a short stubby. It goes down to 3 millimeter. And man, that has saved the day on crusty, rusty power valve parts, nasty, horrible chassis bits. If you break it off, Snap-on just punches a new one in. I'm not advocating that you buy Snap-on stuff for everything, but these are nice to have. Gary's so fancy, he's got an RS125 and Snap-on tools while I eat gruel and hot dog water soup. I had hot dog water soup for a very, very, very long time because I needed the tools to do my job. So don't yell at me for no longer drinking hot dog water soup. I believe that this is the carburetor for a 1998 RS125 because it has an electronic power jet. I'm not 100% sure, just because some of the RS125 stuff is a little confusing, and I don't want to message Stuart at Rising Sun every 4 minutes with every single question I have. Ooh, wow. That's how you know it's a real GP bike. SPJ. So if you are in the comments and you own an RS125, SPJ 09AAMA. If you're familiar with that carburetor, please let me know what it is off of. That is huge. That is a taper board carburetor. I do not believe that came taper board from the factory. If you look at the bore of it, you can see that somebody has machined the inside of this to be a slightly larger diameter. I do that for road race bikes when 36 is not big enough, 38 is too big. So for some Formula 500 stuff, I have taper board carburetors before. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for a stock RS125. I think I have to get the Airbox out to get the engine out. I think that is the order of operations for this. Which means I probably have to properly disconnect this. I'm probably going to fast forward through this because it's boring as hell. And people don't want to hear my insane political ramblings for 4 hours. It would probably benefit me to get a normal Airbox, but unfortunately, no matter what, they cut the head stay off of the bike entirely, so there is nowhere for there's nowhere for the fairing to mount to, no matter what. I'll take you for a ride here. I'll take a look too while we're looking. Get my head in there. So up here you can see where somebody, after the fact, cut the headstock of the bike and put in the fancy Airbox, which is great unless you ever wanted to run a normal fairing. If somebody has a stock frame that they want to sell me really cheap, I would probably buy it. And then up. It's only half carbon fiber, which is kind of funny. I don't know why you'd go through the trouble of making half of it standard. I suppose that's probably Teflon, and the upper half carbon fiber. Why you wouldn't just make it entirely one or another. But that's funny. Okay, now we can see this sweet little baby RS125 engine just hanging out in there. Hopefully my camera can work fast enough to understand this. It looks like it has a different reed cage in it. And I have been told that this engine has been modified to accept a significantly larger reed cage, although it does use the standard RS125 intake boot. I suppose we will have to see. So the next stage is going to be getting some of this junk out of the way. I will remove an 8 and a 10. I broke my back. It's spinal. So I'm going to want to remove that first. I believe that is going to be a 4. So it has a quick shifter on it, and I don't know if the quick shifter will work with a standard CDI box. Because I plan to put the normal RS125 engine in it, I will not be running the HEJA electronics, and I don't know if that means I'm going to have to come up with a completely different quick shifter setup, or really how much it matters, because this is such an advanced race bike. I don't even know if that's important or cool or required. Obviously it's cool, or this guy wouldn't have put it on it, but how important is it really? If you're just, you know, racing in an ARMA sound to singles 3 race. I suppose 80 people in the comments will tell me that you have to have a data collector, a det counter, a quick shifter. Why would you take the power valve off? It's so cool. Obviously, you know, I'm a ex-GP rider, so I can ride anything. I just would have left it on. You should let me ride it instead of that punk kid. Okay. And they drilled this hole perfectly to correspond with the engine bolt. So that is not going to easily come out, and it is going to make me look like a jackass, and I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to disconnect the little puller. My toolbox normally lives in the back over there, but because Millennium halfway burned to the ground, I no longer have a shop. I had a really cool shop where my workbench was right next to my toolbox, but I was displaced, and now none of my stuff is anywhere near where it should be. We will free him. This is too tight anyways. You're supposed to have a little bit of free play. That's a stopper for that. That is going to be a 12 or a 13. I'm sure you guys just love hearing me mutter. Okay. We will get the servo controller off of the other side of the cylinder. It'll give you guys a break from staring at my bald head. Interestingly, the engine crankcase vent plugs into the side of the frame. So I wonder if the frame is full of oil. That would be interesting. Maybe not. Maybe I need to cry about it. I think I need to cry about it. That's one of the things about having a fancy motorcycle. They are double the complexity. As Chris Spargo said, water cooling and disc brakes are a fad. And as interesting as power valves are, boy, what a pain in the ass. And very interestingly, that power valve rack here, the servo wire holder, is held on by 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 threads. 4 threads of a screw are holding that on. So that is interesting to me. Typically, I like to see a little bit more than that on my Grand Prix motorcycle, but hey, that's just me. If they want to hold it on with 4 screws, that's their prerogative. Okay, now we will attempt to not break this wiring loom as much as I would love to break it. I don't want to. I don't have to take that fully off right now, because otherwise I'm going to embarrass myself by breaking its little stupid plastic clip. It annoys me greatly that some plastic clips come off with mind control. You just look at it and it falls apart. And then others, it's like a child-proof lock and they don't want you to get at it. So here, you guys can't see this because I'm on the other side of the motorcycle, is, yeah, this is a 2007 Honda CR250 servo controller. It probably has custom wires, but that's just the servo controller from a RC valve Honda CR250. Which, I mean, yeah, why make something custom if you don't have to? That is the pickup from something which I have never seen in the case there. That is odd. That is the spark plug. This uses the very expensive, very hard to get short spark plugs with short spark plug caps, the NGK TRS, which is a huge pain in the ass, and I would love to not have to use if I don't have to, because they are expensive. And if I can save $10 on a spark plug, why not? Okay, that is the majority of the stupid little things that I have to get out of the way. I'm going to pick up my tools. On the RS125, the engine is captivated, much like my audience, by a castle nut. And maybe I'll set you up on a tripod so you can see, because I did not understand this when I first got it. I don't know if you can see this or not, but back inside there is a castle nut, which holds the engine in place so that it doesn't pinch the frame on it. You actually spin this castle nut in, the frame is threaded, so that as you tighten that, it tightens that castle nut on the engine mounts, so you're not crimping the frame on it. I'm going to set you here, and maybe it'll look up at me a little bit while I do one. Okay, we put you back in your spot. $14. Make sure both of those are free. Each of these is their own bolt. It does not go through. Make sure that there's no torque on that. I should not get my fingers caught in this and lose one. Let's pull back that there. Get a brass drift. Now you are supposed to have somebody here to support the engine. I do not have that because I'm a scrub and I'm all by myself right now. Because my apprentice is sick. I use a little hammer just to push it. One thing I did not cover that holds the RS engine in place with that pair of castle nuts. Here is the castle lock nut. It holds, I slowly do this so the gimbal doesn't freak out. If you look right here, there's a threaded boss that holds the engine in place so you aren't pinching the frame and putting stress on it so you don't crack it. So inside here, there is a kind of a nut that spins on the inside of the threaded part of the frame to put pressure on the engine. This is the lock nut for that, which uses the Castle socket from Honda. This one is part number 07716-0020100. I'm going to grab the appropriate Allen for that. I believe that's a very, very low torque number. I've got the service manual. I think it's like 2.5, 3. When I go to redo this, don't quote me on that. I will have the correct torque number. And that is probably going to be something big like an M10. That is indeed an M10. I have the Motion Pro socket T-handle that I really like to use for stuff like that. And I'm just gonna back it off. I don't want to pull that all the way out just yet. And I've still got my bolt through both sides of this so that the engine doesn't fall out onto my workbench and embarrass me, because I know it really, really, really wants to. I'm gonna get all this stuff roughly out of the way. Grab my coffee cup. Rest in peace, Fuel Cafe. I don't know what the exact deal is, but I think Scott is doing whatever he wants now, which is awesome. I just miss the little Fuel Cafe. I felt like a very cool guy hanging out in there, knowing all the people who were on the wall. So I am supporting the engine like a little baby. I'm not going to drop it, even though I really want to. Here is a bouncing baby Honda RS125 engine. Wow. The next steps for this, I will be talking about the differences between this engine and the standard RS125. I can already tell that this thing is totally different. It's got different studs, different intake. It's got some sort of electronic parts that this one doesn't have. Very interesting. We will get this up on the workbench and we will do a side-by-side comparison with a standard RS125. Yeah.